Guti, I have been waiting for this for a long time because number one, I've been using the Mitolux lamp or device for a while now and noticing huge improvements with my skin. Number two, I have not yet done a podcast on the benefits of red light. And we're going to kind of talk even beyond that today. And I think it's really important because I get this question all the time from my community. How does red light affect our hormones? How does it actually affect our skin? How does it actually affect our thyroid? And I got to tell you, I don't even know when red light therapy came out, but let's just rewind like 3, 4 years ago. I started looking up studies on red light and how it affects our cells and how it affects our body and really just light in general, even the sunlight, red light. And I was actually trying to debunk it because I thought, how's light? Come
Yeah.
on. How is light really
Yeah.
going to affect us? And I got to tell you, I couldn't find anything negative. I had found
Yes.
nothing but positive studies on this. So I'm so excited to be talking about this today because my community needs to know this information.
Yes, totally. Yes, as you were saying, for example, I'm a photographer. I've
Mhm.
been doing photography for the last 20 years. So, and also I have a very big online school for photography with 79,000 students. So, number one photography school in Spanish. And when I started hearing about red light, I was like, I don't believe that can do that much. But I tried and I bought a book and I also bought one lamp in Amazon and I put it to my dog since she has arthritis. And to my surprise, the dog started running again within 2 weeks. So I was like, huh, there's no placebo effect there. So that definitely must be true. And
Mhm.
also, I started using it for my skin, and I'm 47, and it truly works.
It does. It does. That's the biggest thing that I noticed is that my skin is improving. Now I take care of my skin, obviously, but age is age. I mean, every single
Yes.
day we have cellular damage and we have age just deterioration. I mean, the thing that we can count on is what age
Hmm.
and gravity. So, so to notice the improvements in my skin, I really feel like it's glowing more. If you guys are on YouTube, it really is like I'm seeing a glow. I'm seeing a glow in my skin these days.
Hmm.
So, okay, you mentioned you started as a photographer.
Yes.
How did you get into going down this rabbit hole of light? I mean, I guess it does pair up, right?
Yes.
But light for our health versus light for the environment that you're shooting.
Yes, for example, in my case, I started studying photography in early 2000, and I started working as a professional photographer in 2006. But even me back then, I was one of the people that tried to avoid the sun and put some hats and a lot of sunblock because that's what I've been educated like. So I was very, very white. I was even pale. But suddenly, in 2020 during the pandemic, in the middle of the pandemic, I got a big divorce. So
Mm.
that was very bad for my health and I had to go to the psychiatrist and get antidepressants, and they really worked. And also, I had my testosterone dive very low, so
Mhm.
I got testosterone replacement therapy, the pellets that
Yep.
once they put on your buttocks, and it worked amazing. Within a week, I was like rejuvenated because my levels were at 280 in the low point. And
Oh,
with the pellets, yes, that was very bad because of all the stress when you don't sleep well and you don't go outside. So my testosterone was at 280, and within 2 weeks, it was already 550, and then it incremental. So I was getting amazing because of antidepressants and testosterone replacement. Also, my vitamin D was very low. It was in, I believe, like 30, and then I got it to the 60s. So that helped me a lot. But the thing is that I'm not used to the idea of always having to be on medications.
yeah.
So the psychiatrist told me, like, it's possible you'll have to use this the rest of your life, and also the endocrinologist regarding the pellets. But I started doing research and I got to read some books that were telling if you take the sun, that will help for your depression. If you take sun, that will help your vitamin D, that will help your testosterone. So I started giving it a try. And I live in El Salvador, so my son's situation, it's amazing. We're in parallel 13, so I can take the sun most of the days of my life. And since I work home office, I started taking sunbaths. And
Hmm.
from day number one, I felt that energy boost and I felt very happy. That's because the UVB in sunlight helps with your serotonin and with your dopamine. So I really love it. And I started doing sun therapy, just normal sunbaths. And my testosterone increased. And basically, to summarize, after 4 months of doing this, I had improved so much in my mood parameters that the psychiatrist started lowering and suddenly took me out of the antidepressant. And also, I decided to get out of the pellets. At the beginning, it was a little drop, but then I got just by sleeping well, eating well, exercising, and taking the sun, I took my levels to 650 without the pellets. So I was, yes.
Oh my gosh, that's crazy. That's a huge jump.
Yes, because it lowered at the beginning to 450, but sleeping well, stress management, taking the sun and everything, I got it back to 650. I even had it at the beginning of this year to 750 naturally. So I was very, very happy with the results. And suddenly, always, not always, but once in a while, we had bad weather in my country and it rains. So I tried to buy a lamp that combined red light therapy. That's one of the great sides of natural sunlight, the red and the infrared, and also that had the UVB. But since I didn't find anyone that was making this lamp that could help to give you sunbaths, that's when I decided to start developing my own lamp. So that's basically my story.
So if nobody can do it right. You just got to do it yourself. Is the bottom line there. So, all
Yes, I
right.
saw.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yes, I saw a big opportunity because red light is amazing, but it's not practical to have, for example, a sturdy sun lamp or a tanning sun lamp next to an infrared. So why not combine them into a nicer looking device?
Right. And nobody wants huge panels. I mean, it's just it's impractical. And that's what I even found when I was starting to incorporate red light based on my research. I couldn't find anything negative. And there are so many large panels that it gets kind of cumbersome. So I'll have one in my bathroom, but then I realize I don't use it because I'm only in my bathroom to shower, get ready, and then I'm gone. So having
Hmm.
something at your desk and having something portable, I think is very important, at least for me. So
Yes.
before we get into devices and all of that, I want you to
Hmm.
break down those wavelengths. So we hear about it, but I really want to understand. I want my audience to understand what is red, infrared, and then you said UVB. So what are the differences of those, and where do we find each of them?
Okay, basically, in the light is in the electromagnetic spectrum, and for example, when you start getting to the red, the waves start getting bigger, so they have less energy. And the story behind red light therapy, it's very interesting. Basically, we evolved to take advantage as a solar panel from all these different wavelengths, but we didn't know all of these benefits until recently. For example, the first known benefit of taking sunlight in modern times was vitamin D. And we thought that that was all. But NASA during the 1990s was making a program to grow plants in space. So they started using red and infrared light because it's more efficient for the plants for the growth. And they found out that people were getting better skin and their wounds were healing faster. So they said like, this is strange. So they start making studies and they actually found out that red and infrared light help the skin. And that's when the story began, basically, in the 1990s. Now there are more than 5,000 studies regarding the benefits of red light and infrared. Basically, red light and infrared light work similarly, but infrared goes a little bit deeper in your skin. But they work through similar pathways, and the most known pathway, basically, is helping your mitochondria produce more energy. So when you're very young, your mitochondria are working very efficiently. And there's a photoreceptor called cytochrome C oxidase that basically uses the red and the infrared to put more energy to ATP production. So if you have more energy in your cells, you produce more collagen, and that's when all the beautiful things start happening.
Okay. So we get red, infrared, UVA, and UVB from the sun, or or some of that combined? Did I just cross some of them over? Is UVA
Yes.
really red, or yeah, can you break that down?
Okay, I'll explain. So, for example, when you go in the morning to take sunshine, most of the light, if you see, it's a very orange color.
Hmm.
So, in the early morning or late evening, closer to sunset, it's mostly infrared. And
Okay.
so, for example, if you go have a walk early in the morning with as little clothing as you want, that's your natural and free red light therapy device. Because so sometimes people are putting sunscreen early in the morning, and at that time there's no UVA or UVB. It's just infrared. So what I advise people is to go have a walk early in the morning, and that would be your anti-aging red light therapy. So nature
Right.
gives us with that. And when the sun starts getting up in the middle of the day, suddenly we start getting some UVA. And when the sun is basically on top, that's when we start getting UVB. But
Okay.
UVB, it's on the other end of the spectrum. So we have visible light, we have infrared, and then after purple, we have the ultraviolet A and the ultraviolet B that also have a lot of benefits from health for health.
Okay, so we've always been told to wear sunscreen in the middle of the day when the sun is at its highest point, because that's really where the burns and the wrinkles and the skin damage occurs. So during
Yes.
that middle of the day, when we're dosing our UVB, should we be wearing sunscreen, or should we not wear sunscreen, but just limit the amount of time that we're out?
Well, basically, as a norm, whenever you can, it's better to limit the amount of time you're outside at noon, because obviously you can burn if you overdo it. You have to start going gradually. And for example, one of the best methods to prevent sunburn is just wearing clothing or wearing a hat. So, for example, myself, what I try to do when I'm outside, for the first 15 minutes, I don't wear any sunscreen. I want the sun to go to my skin. Those
Mhm.
15 minutes are for my skin type. Some people would probably be 5 minutes if you haven't had any sunshine, or maybe somebody that is an African American, they go for 30, 40 minutes without any problem. And then I put my hat, or when I'm not going to be doing that, I put mineral sunscreen. So it's always good to get some natural light. And when you're not going to have that, put some hat or clothing, or use mineral sunscreen.
Okay. So we want to get some of the UVB. We don't want to completely block ourselves from UVB. We want some of that, right?
Yes, definitely.
Okay.
Yes, for example, it's very interesting because when I developed this lamp a little over a year ago, for me, the benefits of UVB back then were vitamin D, and it helped, and also testosterone, and a little bit about serotonin. But now that I've studied a lot, UVB, it's a lot bigger, all of the benefits that it gives you. So I didn't expect UVB to have all that benefits, but anyone can find online if you put UVB benefits, and you'll be amazed on everything from skin disorders to depression to gut microbiome. So it's amazing.
So it's not just the red light that is giving the benefits, like red light therapy, red light boxes, all of that. It's you need that UVB component to really take it to the next level, like you saw with your testosterone raising to the 600.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. So I want to take the big problem areas or topics that my audience has, and
Mm-hmm.
I want to break that down, whether that is UVB or red infrared or a combination of all. So
Yes.
you had mentioned vitamin D, and that is a big one. You already said UVB, but I'll let you expand on it, because
Mm-hmm.
so many, not so many, I want to say a decent handful of people, and I know that there is a genetic snip out there as well in our genetics that prevents people from actually absorbing a vitamin D supplement or even absorbing it from the
Yes.
sun. So if they can use something like a UVB lamp, I'm kind of processing as I'm talking to you. I'm thinking,
Yes.
okay, that might be the answer for these people that cannot get their vitamin D levels up.
Okay. Yes, there are many things. The first recommendation I would give anybody is to get a vitamin D test, because if you cannot measure it, you really have no idea. And
Right.
for example, I've seen people that believe that they're doing great because they take sometimes the sun or go out, but they're covered in sunscreen, and then suddenly they're 18.
Yeah. Their
When they
vitamin D's in
should,
18. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, where when usually people recommend that you have at least 40, but for all the studies I've seen, the optimal numbers are between 60 and 100. I
Yep.
usually have it between 70, 80, 90, and move it around.
Yep.
So step number one is to have your blood measured, so you really have an idea of how you're doing. Regarding UVB, yes, it's actually UVB, the part of the solar spectrum that's making your body produce vitamin D. Basically, there's a form of cholesterol that when you get the sun exposure, that turns into pre-vitamin D. Then that pre-vitamin D goes to the liver and it changes a little bit. And then when it goes to your, I forgot the name in English. When it goes to your bladder, I
Okay.
believe.
Yep.
When it goes to your bladder, then it turns to the active form of vitamin D. And vitamin D is the most important vitamin because it's not actually a vitamin, but a hormone that
It is a hormone.
was
Liver.
included.
Liver,
Huh?
not bladder. Liver. I got it.
No, first the liver,
Yeah.
and then in Spanish is riñones, but I forgot the name in English, that the last part. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
So it has to get converted. You're right. In the
uh,
liver to
yeah,
actually be a usable form.
it's a multi-step process until you get the active form of vitamin D. So
Mhm.
vitamin D, it basically triggers 3% of the human genome, and it's responsible in many, many different pathways. And one interesting thing, when they said that you should have at least 30 nanograms per milliliter of vitamin D, is when the scientists understood that vitamin D was only working for calcium absorption. So for calcium absorption, it's okay from the 30 nanograms per milliliter, but for all the other different benefits, anti-aging benefits, microbiome benefits, metabolism, depression, and so on, it's when you need to have it at least above 60.
Right. And so, but yeah, all those conditions that you just mentioned, from weight to depression, they're tied back to vitamin D status. But
Yes.
now we can actually go over here and talk about depression and anxiety, because that's what you went through during a very, very stressful time. You were given the antidepressants, which, yes, like you said, they work, but I usually call those the Band-Aid medications. There's a handful of people that actually need them because of some kind of brain chemistry imbalance.
Yes.
I would say the majority of people, 90%, it's a Band-Aid for something else that they're missing, whether it's
Hmm.
thyroid or hormone, or just maybe even light that they're missing,
Yes.
because we're all working inside. We live our lives inside. We work under these fluorescent lights. We're in dirty electricity all day. So it's very rare. We'll get to kind of the schedule and realistic expectations that people should have.
Hmm.
We'll get to that in a minute, but
Hmm.
expanding into the area of anxiety and depression, how does UVB, infrared, red work on the brain to produce more serotonin, or is it through that vitamin D pathway?
It's a lot of different pathways. For example, when you read studies of how they develop most of modern antidepressants, the serotonin reuptake inhibitors, basically they're theorizing that's one of the pathways that they work. But now they're finding that the most probable big pathway that they work is through improving the microbiome diversity. So basically, when you have a healthy microbiome, you produce the chemicals that help your brain. And basically, most of neurotransmitters are produced in the gut. So you take an antidepressant and it helps with your microbiome, that helps with all the chemistry in your body and in your brain. So that's one of the pathways of antidepressants they're discovering now. And for example, if you take oral vitamin D, you will help your microbiome. So you're doing the same in in a more natural manner. But when you take UVB, the improvements in the microbiome are even greater than just taking the vitamin D alone, because there are around 25 different chemicals that your body produces when your skin gets in contact to UVB. So it's not just vitamin D like we used to believe, but there are a lot of chemicals that are produced into different compounds, like POMC. POMC, it's dependent on the UVB, and so it's more complex than that when we think. But in summary, when you take the sun, the UVB part will improve your microbiome, and that will help with depression and also vitamin D.
And I mean, there's some phenomenal studies that anyone listening can really go down the rabbit hole on PubMed.
Yes.
I mean, photobiomodulation, which is essentially what this is when you are
Yes.
using light to modulate your biome, your body, your microbiome for major depressive disorders. I mean, targeting brain metabolism, inflammation, oxidative stress, and neurogenesis. There's another one, the psychological benefits, 2 and 4 weeks after a single treatment with near infrared light to the forehead. I mean, that's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yes, that's another pathway. For example, when you go and take the sun, one pathway would be the microbiome, the vitamin D, the POMC, that's also making different compounds. But for example, now there are many equipments on the market that basically target the infrared directly through your head and forehead. It's because when we go outside, part of the infrared goes through our skull and basically is getting to our brain cells. So that's part of a healthy process. And now most people are wearing hats, are spending time indoors. And that could be also correlated with the rise in Alzheimer's and many other diseases. So we need to take infrared as much as we need to take the UV.
Yeah, no, I agree. Now that I'm learning more about it, it's all kind of coming together and making sense.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we got to jump to hair growth, because hair loss and hair breakage is a big issue in my community, whether it's stemming from thyroid dysfunction or hormone imbalance or lack of protein. I mean, this is a really big, especially for women, when they start losing their hair and they're literally counting the hairs that come out of their head and taking pictures of it and saying, please help me. There's a lot of crap on the market right now. And there's a
Mm-hmm.
lot of really expensive head caps that you can put on that literally, I mean, you might as well just string red Christmas lights around your head. Like, that's the extent of help that you're getting from
Mm-hmm.
these red light caps. So can you dive into the hair growth aspect, whether it's
Yes.
alopecia base or damage to the follicle or hormone or thyroid? How can this help us if we use a good quality device and not a Christmas light device?
Okay, yes, that's very interesting. First of all, when you start losing your hair, it can be caused by different different causes. One of them could be hormonal, for example, in the case of men, and other could be just simply aging.
Yeah.
Another could be also lack of different nutrients. And the way that the red and infrared lights works, it's basically by nourishing your mitochondria.
Mm-hmm.
So when you start getting old, your cells start producing more energy, and if you can make them more vibrant, more energetic through infrared, they could start producing more hair. So, for example, in my case, I'm not losing hair here. Very happy for me because I'm 47 and don't
Right.
have any hair loss. But where I've seen the difference is in my beard. I used to have many spots that the hair didn't grow, and
Mm-hmm.
now they're filled. So that's where I've seen it for myself.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been using red light therapy for a year. So that's where I use it. Regarding the different products you could buy, I usually tell people if you can go and get natural sunshine for hair growth, it would be not necessary to go at noon, but to go early in the morning because that's when you get more infrared reach. That would be a solution. And it's been totally proven that those lights go through your skull. There's also one a very interesting device called the Ceratribe, and that's basically one device that you put it, and it's basically giving you some infrared wavelengths that have great penetration. And regarding to the caps, yes, most of the caps that you could buy, they're not that professional because they're really too low powered. The professional ones are using high-powered lasers. Those are the best ones, but they could
Yeah.
be like $2,500 usually. And the cheap ones that you could almost always find around, they have the right wavelengths. The problem is they don't have the right intensity. So it's actually better to use a panel like this or the bigger ones if you want to trigger your skin or your hairlines, if you want to promote more growth. And always remember, growing your hair is just one of the benefits of using the infrared component of the lamp or of sunshine.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Okay. So that is a definite answer, whether we're walking outside or using a device indoors, a high quality device indoors, that can absolutely help with hair growth. How long does it normally take? I always tell people with hair issues, you really almost have to give it 6 months because of the hair growth
Yes.
cycle and how our hair
Yes.
respond. Okay, you agree with that?
Yes, it's basically the skin cycle. It's around 4 weeks. So, for example, if you use it for your skin, you can see results basically within 2 months. And
Mhm.
I usually tell people just to figure out that it's really working, take a picture and then take a picture after 2 months. But usually, even they don't need that because some of the people that I've given the lamp or some customer, they're telling me that people notice, like, hey, what have you done to your skin? And that's usually happening around 2 months, but for hair, it's a longer. That would be around 6 months, and it will help everybody, but it will help less in men, for example, that it's caused by hormonal causes, because what the light will do is to give more energy to your cells. But if there's a chemical imbalance because you're too susceptible to DHT, then
Mhm.
it won't work as much, and you would need to combine it with DHT blockers.
Yes, yes. I'm happy you said that because we want to set expectations that if you are
Yes.
taking testosterone therapy, and this even goes for women because I have a DHT fixer in my line because I see elevated levels of DHT so much from
Mhm,
testosterone therapy. So
mhm,
I'm kind of piecing this all together in my mind by using UVA, UVB, red, infrared on your hair. You could also, or on your body, on your face, on your hair, on your body, you
mhm.
could also increase your natural testosterone to where maybe you wouldn't need as much testosterone replacement therapy or any at all in your case, but you wouldn't need as much.
Yes.
And then that's going to lower DHT because testosterone well, not aromatized, but it pushes down the 5 alpha reductase
Mhm,
pathway to DHT. And then that hurts the follicle, or in men's
mhm.
cases, they get the male pattern baldness. Women, they
Yes.
get more thinning. Men get the male pattern baldness. So it
Mhm,
kind of all works in a. I'm picturing how this works all together.
mhm. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. For example, the lamp that I developed, the Mitolux lamp, has two different modes. One would be the traditional red infrared mode. That's basically when you put here the H, and
Hmm.
it's very high powered, as you can see.
Yep.
And the H mode, you can use it all over your body, and you can use it on your face, you can use it on your scalp, and it doesn't have the UVB. So I really don't recommend people using the UVA or UVB on their face because the UVA or UVB benefits are systemical. And since you want to avoid skin aging, what I recommend is use the red light anywhere you want the benefits. But if you want to use the UVB part that also combined with the red and infrared, it's better to use it on your chest and on your back, because if you raise your vitamin D, it's systemical. If you raise your testosterone, it's systemical. So don't use the UVA or UVB on your face.
Okay, that was going to be my next question because I wasn't quite sure with that. I was, yeah,
Mhm,
ironically, I was putting it lower and kind of shining it on my body,
mhm,
mainly because I'm like, oh, well, I have sunscreen on my face. So it's
mhm,
probably not even going to penetrate. So I might as well put it somewhere else. But to your point,
mhm,
you also, just to avoid that, any kind of cumulative damage from the UVB, just
mhm.
put it somewhere else on your body because you're still going to get the benefits. But the
Yes,
red light you want to put on your face for the collagen and elastin production, right? The healing mode that you have, that you want to
yes,
shine
that's
on your
right.
face. Okay.
Yeah, so usually, for example, for the healing mode, what I recommend and what I use myself is to put it this way. It's 10 minutes and you can use it on your hands and on your neck at the same time. So those are the parts that usually you want your skin to get the best anti-aging benefits, and it's big enough to cover those areas, but it's also small enough so you can even travel with it or even put inside a drawer. So that's what I wanted to develop, because panels work great, but they're impractical. So that's why people have trouble finding space in their homes.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Totally impractical. That's what I was finding. Okay, we have to go on to the hormone benefits because this is really impressive. I found a study that actually shows, and they're looking at postmenopausal women, hormone levels in postmenopausal women,
Mm-hmm.
and how ultraviolet radiation, that's the term that they're using
Mm-hmm.
UVR. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
yes, they're saying it has an immune regulation, vitamin D production, all of that as they tie back to the levels of sex hormones in postmenopausal women. But it also seems like it's direct and indirect effect. So yes, it's coming, just like we were talking about earlier, coming from a little bit of vitamin D, coming from the immunoregulation, which we didn't even talk about. Inflammation goes down, your immune system improves. But what they're finding when they looked at these 580 postmenopausal women
Mm-hmm.
is a overall improvement in their hormone levels. And luckily did they look at testosterone here? We know that it affects testosterone. Well, they looked
Mm-hmm.
at estradiol, they looked at luteinizing hormone, FSH, estrone, and they're seeing an improvement in that. But also the biggest thing is they're basically saying that this is an easy, modifiable lifestyle intervention to enhance postmenopausal quality of life.
Yes.
Yeah.
No,
That's a bonus, right? Yeah, because not all
yeah,
women can get
I didn't know
hormones.
that one. Yes.
Yeah, not all women can get hormones. I mean, I'm a huge advocate. I believe that all women should have access to them, but in this society that we're in conventional sick medicine, there are still many, many doctors
Mm-hmm.
that are blind to the effects of hormones and the benefits of hormones. So I think we do need to give women other ways, other options, and men, because we saw it with your testosterone levels too. We need to give them other modifiable lifestyle factors that they can do, like you said, for free or for
Mm-hmm.
a very affordable price without having to go beg their doctor for hormones.
Yes, definitely. So we always need to first find the natural way to improve, and try to get as much deeper as we want with the natural way, and then with supplement with medicines when the natural way doesn't do too much, but actually we're doing it the wrong way. First it's medications, and then we believe started finding the natural ways. So yeah, it's amazing how taking the light could help. For example, there's a very interesting study they made in Sweden. It
Mhm.
lasted 20 years. So they're basically targeting women specifically, and they wanted to find how much cancer women got from getting more sun. So
Mhm.
they're basically, it was a study to prove that taking sun was bad for you. And after the 20 years of study, they even found that taking the sun was basically reversing the effects of smoking. So women that smoke and took sunbaths
Mhm.
were even healthier and had less cancer risk than women that were not taking the sun and not smoking. So basically, the positive effect of taking the sun is bigger than the bad effect of smoking. So that's how amazing taking the sun could be for health.
Wow. Yeah, no, that's absolutely amazing. And this is exactly why I wanted to do this podcast with this topic, because we need to unpack all of these things that we're hearing from a variety of different places, but we really need to break it down so that people can understand it. And okay,
Hmm.
now we're going to dive specifically into thyroid. And this is, like I said in the beginning, I really tried to debunk red light's effect on the thyroid, but I can't because because what I'm finding, okay, so number one, with Hashimoto specifically, we
Hmm.
have that immune regulation. So we're actually calming down the immune system from attacking, since
Hmm.
Hashimoto's is an attack on the thyroid. So we have that
Hmm.
aspect. Now, this one study blows me away because I always talk about medication and how you would have to pry my thyroid medication out of my dead cold hands. And it really matters. I get the question, can I stop taking my thyroid medication? I always say it really matters on how far along that destruction path you are of your thyroid gland, how long you've been on medication. But I think red light comes in and actually gives us a fighting chance. This study showed that almost 50% of those who participated in the experiment using the red light therapy for hypothyroidism, specifically on the neck itself, that they were able to entirely stop taking medication because the red light
Wow.
effectively regenerated the thyroid follicular cells responsible for releasing normal concentrations of T3 and T4. And it's also
Wow.
working on the mitochondria. So that's obviously improving energy levels because everyone with a thyroid problem, low energy, weight gain, the whole deal. I mean, it really, and then we have the protection against the natural killer cells. So this is bringing in those antibodies that are attacking the thyroid. I mean, it really does help our thyroid work better.
Yes. Wow. Yes, I read some studies that say this. And for example, when you even are using the lamp for beauty, you're giving a red light to your neck and thyroid. So that's penetrating up to 3 centimeters deep. So that's hitting your thyroid, and basically it's giving more ATP and rejuvenating the cells in your thyroid. So as deep as it can go, it will help. And for example, regarding autoimmune diseases, that would be another pathway. As I told you, basically all autoimmune diseases start in the gut, because if you have a weak gut, you don't have good microbiome, you start getting leaky gut. So some of the things that shouldn't go into your bloodstream are getting into your bloodstream, and that's when you start getting all the high autoimmune response. So, for example, in the case with Hashimoto's, if you could improve your microbiome through UVB, that will also be another pathway. And also UVB helps with rheumatoid arthritis. That's another autoimmune, with psoriasis, with vitiligo, and with so many others. So vitamin D and UVB could be some of the most natural ways to help against any autoimmune disease.
It's just amazing how there are so many natural cures out there. And yes, sometimes we do need to have a device to bring it inside because the realism is that, okay, where I live, it's going to get cold and I'm not going to walk outside in the morning. Well, number one,
In what city do you live?
Des Moines, Iowa. So
Oh,
it's going to
okay.
snow. It's going to get cold. I'm not
Yeah.
down in El Salvador. So I'm going to need something during those winter months where we may
Yes.
only have 8 hours of light per day anyways.
Mm-hmm.
And then just the weather restriction. I mean, very similar to why you built Mitolux is because you were like, hey, we have some cloudy, rainy days down here. And that's
Mm-hmm.
not going to work for my sunbathing. But to your point earlier, there's the free version. You go
Mm-hmm.
outside, but then there's reality and how many people
Mm-hmm.
can, if you're working indoors and you're working a 9 to 5, or I'm not even
Yes.
working 9 to 5, but I just don't have the time. I mean, I might have 5 minutes to jump outside, but then there's the
Yes.
weather aspect and the cold.
Yes.
So I really like the fact that there are affordable devices that are good quality, specifically the Mitolux. And I want
Mm-hmm.
to talk about that specifically of what you did differently, because there are so many devices on the market.
Yes.
What did you do differently? What was your mission in building this outside of just helping yourself?
Mm-hmm.
Why you wanted to put all these different aspects in it and not just have a red light panel?
Okay. Yes. So basically, I wanted to do a lamp that could be in a nice design, because also most red light panels don't look nice. And if it looks nice, it will be easier to keep it on any place in your house. So what I wanted to do is to use the most tested wavelengths of red and near infrared with the most tested part of the UVB. And for example, the UVB that we're using, it's a narrowband 295 nanometers, and that's the most efficient shown in different tests to raise your hormones and to raise your vitamin D. So if you get the most efficient spectrum, you can have better results with less exposure to radiation. So that's why we chose it, because we're just using the special part that has the best results and not all of the different wavelengths. So we chose the 295 nanometer because you can do more with less. And also there are some studies that have shown that some people get burned because they're lacking the infrared part. So they actually tested getting, for example, UV and using different wavelengths of red and near infrared. And basically, when you have the right frequencies of infrared, that basically gets out all of the damaging and oxidative stress that you get with UV. So the problem, for example, when going to the sunbeds and most of the studies against UVB or UVA, it's because they're given in an isolated form. So it's bad if you get the UV or UVA just by themselves, because in nature, for example, even at noon, 5% it's UVA, 0.5% it's UVB, and 60% it's infrared. So I wanted to recreate with my lamp all of the combination of the best wavelengths of red and infrared with the UVB, so it would be more natural. So for example, if I use this lamp without the infrared and you use it for 5 minutes, maybe you would get a little pink. But when you add the red and infrared, that basically heals your cells. So basically you don't get the negative effects. So you can even tolerate more exposure to UVB. So that's one of the first the ways how I developed the wavelength of the UVB and the wavelengths of the infrared. And also this is one of the first machines to use the amber color. And the amber color, I chose to add it because that's the one that's shown to be best with photo aging. And probably the people that are going to be more likely to use this are people that naturally take the sun. So the amber, the 590, it naturally helps with blemishes, with skin effects of the sun, and also has a nitric oxide benefit. So it's basically one amber, one red, and two frequencies of near infrared. So it's actually 5 frequencies in the machine.
So it's actually helping like that sun, those brown spots that we get from sun damage from when, yeah, I am totally guilty. I used to lay out in the sun with no sunscreen or like an SPF of 2, and I went to the tanning bed. So
Yeah.
if you lived in the 80s and 90s, people, you probably did the same. And then you start to see those little dark little, we'll call them age spots popping up. So the amber light will help with that.
Yes, the amber light will help with that.
That's
So for
awesome.
example, if I was to design right now the perfect suntan bed, it would include the UVB. It would include also the amber and the near infrared. And that way it will be a much healthier tan without all of the skin color issues that just the tanning beds gave you.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, can the amber and the red penetrate sunscreen? So if you were using let's say like right now, obviously I have my sunscreen on, I have my makeup on, sitting at my desk. If I put on the healing mode, is that going
Yes.
to penetrate my sunscreen and my makeup, or should it be done on with a clearer face if you can?
Always better with a clear face, but it will penetrate most of the sunscreen because now there are some other sunscreens that even block near infrared.
Mm.
So maybe 99% don't have that part, but there are some sunscreen that even protect of the infrared because some people are lacking so much the sun that they're even sensible to the healthy near infrared. But most of the time you can use it with makeup and it will penetrate.
Okay. All right. That's good to know. Because again, it's back to the realism. Like, when are you going to use your light? Are you going to use it at your desk where you might have makeup on? So we need to cover all of this in case people do want to get a Mitolux of their own and use it at their desk so that they know, okay, they're still getting the benefits, even
Mm-hmm.
though maybe they're ready for work and ready for the day and all the Zoom meetings that they have to go on.
Yes.
So we know,
Yes, and you know something that it's amazing, even in my country, I'm working with an endocrinologist doctor, and he's telling me that even in my country, he finds that 50% of people are deficient because even if we have great sun, what
Mhm.
happens is that it's so hot outside most of the time that people avoid taking the sun. And that
Oh
also
yeah.
happens, for example, in the Middle East. Dubai and Qatar have vitamin D deficiency rates of around 84 to 85%. And it's because even when they have the sun, it's too hot and they don't go outside.
Well, I hear you. Ironically, yesterday and today are 100 here. So I'm not going out. There's no way I'm
Wow.
going outside. It's
So
just
you're hotter than
horrible.
here.
Yeah, I know. How about that? We're having a heat wave. But yeah,
Uh-huh.
so yes, to your point, I would use it when it's too hot outside. I would use it when it's too cold outside. And the realism of people's lives is you can't control the
Yes.
weather. And you're either, yes, maybe you're in a really nice sunny spot like Arizona, Florida, Texas, El Salvador, but it's just too damn hot to go out most of the time.
Yes, and even when you go out, it's not practical walking without your shirt or in bikini.
Right.
So
Yeah.
you're not getting enough exposure. And with this, you can use it anywhere in the body. For example, some of our male users use them on their genitals because some people believe that when you get the UVB and the infrared to your genitals, you get even better results than when you do them, for example, in the chest. So it's not practical taking nude sunbaths, but you can use this instead.
And one last thought that I want to go over too. I'm tying this together with a conversation I had with Danny Hamilton regarding circadian rhythm. And
Mm,
one thing that she said is when you wake up in the morning, the last thing you want to do is grab your phone. You're
yes,
you're in still maybe a dark room, the
yes.
light hasn't started coming up yet, and you grab your phone and you hit your eyes with that blue light, and that's
Hmm.
totally throwing off your metabolism, your circadian rhythm. It's going
Yes.
to affect your hormones, your sleep, all that. Would it be practical to have the Mitolux by my bed? And as soon as I wake up, I turn it on. And what setting would I use to get
Hmm.
that natural sunlight into
Hmm.
my eyes and then go on with my day after I wake up? Then I can pick up my phone and look at that.
Yes. Well, basically, this lamp, as this model is right now,
Mhm.
would give you the light of early morning.
Yeah.
But what actually triggers your circadian rhythm is when you start getting some UVA in your eyes and also
Mhm.
some blue light. So for circadian rhythm specifically, my recommendation would be to go outside and walk without your glasses because the problem is that glasses today are blocking the UVA component and it's the UVA that basically triggers your circadian rhythm to wake up. And it has been shown in many studies that when you get UVA in your eyes, you have less problems with developing myopia. So it's all tied together. So my recommendation would be, whenever possible for circadian rhythm, go outside and take natural light. But I'm also developing another line of the lamp in the future that will have white and UV8 for the eyes.
Oh, very nice. Very nice. I love it.
Mhm.
And we're going to link back to the podcast I did with Danny Hamilton because when you reset your circadian rhythm,
Yes.
you're resetting your metabolism. You have better glucose control. We didn't even talk about weight and metabolism
Ah, yeah,
as it
that's
relates to the
amazing.
light too. But there you go. There's the tie-in to weight gain and metabolism.
Hmm. Yes, yes. Regarding metabolism, usually all of the magic, as I told you, it's not on the visible side, but on one end on the infrared and the other on the UV. For example, there are some studies, and I've tested them myself because right here I'm wearing one glucose continuous monitor,
Yeah.
and basically, one of the things that red light does to you is that it helps with is insulin sensitivity. So basically, you have a lower spikes of glucose after you eat, and that's one way that it helps controlling your weight. And regarding the UVB side, there are some many studies that it shows that it helps with diabetes. It helps with metabolic syndrome, and also it even helps with preventing weight gain because it's been proven that it increases the amount of brown fat cells that you have, and those are the ones producing heat and consuming more calories. So it's also great to have metabolic effects on using sunshine or using the lamp. And what I tell people is try to find a surfer that is obese.
Oh,
And
good call. Yeah.
when you go to the people in basically near the equator or to sunny places, you see a lot of less obesity. And that's because of UVB, because they have better circadian rhythm, because they're having more infrared. So the more exposed you are, also your eyes, not just your body, but the more you are exposed you are to the infrared and to the UVs, the better metabolism and the healthier weight you will have.
Bam. Well, there's the mic drop moment right there. It's all
Just trying
coming
to find
together
a fat
now.
surfer, trying to find a fat surfer. Usually they're
Amen.
really skinny because they're waking up early, seeing the sunshine with their bare eyes. So they're syncing with the circadian rhythm. They're getting the infrared early in the morning and they're getting the UV later at night. And
Mhm.
so they usually the surfers don't party that much at night because they're falling asleep earlier. Because when you get sun in your eyes early in the morning, at night you will be very, very sleepy.
Yeah, you got to get those good waves early in the morning. Oh
Yes,
my gosh,
totally.
Guti, this has been awesome. This is exactly what I wanted. I really wanted to dive into the different aspects of we can call it photo biomodulation, light, the
Light,
benefits
yes,
of light. And yes,
yes.
you can absolutely do it the freeway, like you said, by timing it and walking outside, or you can get a very affordable device that like the Mitolux that you make. We're going to put that link
Hmm.
in the show notes, which you also gave my audience a discount
Hmm.
code for. So thank you. I tend to go that way of using
Hmm.
devices just again because of practicality.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, this is
Yeah.
designed to be very practical. Also, we have launched just recently a floor stand. So basically, you could either buy it and includes the regular stand, but if you want to use it on your sofa, on your bed, or even in a clinic, you could have that because you can adjust the height and you can adjust the angle. And we'll have soon also a travel case because there are some people that are giving a lot of lectures or traveling a lot and they want to get some more sunlight.
Yeah.
So they're traveling with the Mitolux. So it's just 2.5 pounds. So it's very light.
It is very light. It's amazing. No, I think I will travel with it because then when you're in conferences and hotel rooms, I mean, all the natural light is just gone.
Mhm.
You're so
Yes.
deficient in that. So that totally makes
Mhm.
sense.
Yes,
Totally
and
makes sense.
I also want to cover one more detail.
Hmm?
As I told you, the UVB component of sunlight at the highest peak and in the equator, it's just 0.5%. So that's why this unit you could have in the, for example, in the 5-minute mode, that would be the equivalent of being around 30 minutes of equator sun because it's basically using the most efficient wavelength and the sun has very little UV. So you only need 5 minutes to get all of the benefits of UVB on your torso. If you want double the effects, you can use it on your back and you can
Mhm.
also use it as a red light therapy for anti-aging.
I love it. I love it. Thank you so much. Thank you for your knowledge and unpacking all of this. It's just something I really wanted an expert to come on and talk about instead of me just going through all the studies. So love it,
Yes.
Goody. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it today.
Thank you very much.